Hey guys, Wade Willis here doing my playthrough of Umineko. This is the third part of Chapter 2. We just had Beatrice actually show up. She made a grand appearance to Shannon, who apparently is the one who treats the portrait the best out of anyone. And she gave Shannon kind of um, a deal that if she goes to this like tiny shrine, crushes this mirror, that Beatrice will make sure that Shannon and George end up together. So, and if she doesn't do it, they will never end up together because George will end up with someone else. So, for me, I feel like I would say 99.9% of people would take the deal, especially if you're in Shannon's shoes in particular, where you're a servant and you're treated like furniture. But yeah, guys, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel. And yeah, doing this playthrough a lot and excited to see what happens.
別部屋ってなんだよ。じゃあ、わざわざシャノンとジョージ兄さんは別の部屋に泊まったのかよ。
はい。そんなにもおかしかったでしょうか。
Yeah, you guys should have smashed. Jessica's cheeks have been stuffed with chocolate-coated biscuit that Shannon had brought as a present from Okinawa. And it all came flying out at Shannon when Jessica cried out.
シャノンさ、何のために沖縄まで旅行に行ったんだよ。それもジョージ兄さんと二人っきりで。
Gotta agree with Jessica here.
それはとても大きな水族館が沖縄にあるから、ぜひ行こうって誘われて。
Oh, girl, come on.
私、お魚とか好きですし。
いや、だからさ、健全な男女がお泊まりありで旅行に行ったわけだろ。それでチューもなければギューもないのかよ。ましてや部屋は男女で別部屋ってなんだよ。
Yeah, I am.
チューについてはノーコメントです。でもギューはありましたよ。ジョージさんの胸温かかったです。
そういうことじゃねえぜ。なあ、もう。
Jessica's someone I could see just making a move on a dude, which gotta give props to
なん
her.
だってこんなカップルがいるんだよ。なあ、もう。じれってぜ。
From Shannon's point of view, it was an incredibly happy trip for various reasons. But it looked like Jessica found their place to be pretty irritating. For a while, Jessica chewed her present, complaining about romance and pretending to faint in agony on her bed. Shannon and George had chosen to go to Okinawa because there was a huge aquarium there. They did this because an aquarium had given them the opportunity to start going out. Since their relationship had started at an aquarium, having their first overnight trip also be to an aquarium must have held some commemorative value.
そんな記念の節目の初のお泊まり旅行ならいろいろと進展するもんがあるはずだぜ。それが男女別部屋。
It's just more
カップ
expensive
ルでシングル
too.
2部屋。ああ、もう本当にどうかしてるぜ。
それはお互い独身の男女ですし、ジョージさんがそこをしっかりするのが男女のマナーだとおっしゃって。
No, it's definitely
だ
not.
からそれを踏み越えるためのお泊まり旅行じゃねえのかよ。もはやキューとかギューとかのレベルじゃねえぜ。
お嬢様がどういう意味でおっしゃってるのかわかりませんが。
Oh.
ジョージ様は最後まで本当に紳士でいてくださいました。それは私もそういうことがあるかなというか。 でも私たち、お付き合いはしてますけど、別に結婚してるわけじゃないし、お嬢様が期待されているようなことは、ちゃんと神様の前で誓いを立ててからするべきです、
No.
するべきです、
Shannon's face got bright red. She made a circle with both hands, relentlessly intertwining and separating to make heart marks with them. Apparently, the dramatic progress Jessica had looked forward to hadn't happened, but it seemed to have been a very important experience for Shannon in her own way. In the end, whether Jessica was jealous of Shannon or made fun of her, it didn't change the fact that Shannon had a huge lead on her.
私も彼氏欲しい。シャノンに先を越されたのが悔しい。彼氏作るときは一緒だぜって約束したのに抜け駆けされた。
お嬢様は素敵な方ですから、私なんかよりきっと素敵な方がすぐに現れます。
そういう慰めはいらねえぜ。シャノンの裏切り者、出ていけ。
Oh. Is freaking what's his name gonna show up randomly here? Jessica threw several cushions at her, but midway she had an asthma attack and started to choke pretty badly. Shannon hurriedly ran over beside the side table and started searching around on top of it. A cute basket was placed there, and inside of it was Jessica's bronchodilator. Jessica picked it up and handed it over to Jessica. Shannon picked it up. Jessica's asthma attacks always came suddenly. Because of that, she needed to carry this medicine around. She breathed in the medicine and after a while managed to overcome her choking as asthma finally settled down. Shannon thought this is a good chance to leave and tried to exit the room after bowing courteously. As she did, one more small cushion came flying and hit Shannon on the head. She noticed that Jessica was on the very verge of crying and had half of her face buried in her last and favorite cushion. That face was red and meek.
お嬢様？
シャノンさ、正直に言って、私、髪型とか、変かな。
まさか。お嬢様の髪は、とてもお美しいと思います。
じゃあ、目とか変かな？鼻とか変じゃないかな？やっぱり、喋り方がダメなのかな？だから彼氏できないのかな？
そんなはずはありませんよ。
Her personality would kill it in America.
お嬢様は、そのままで十分に素敵です。そして、その魅力は、これからもっともっと増していくと思いますよ。
でも、私だけ彼氏できない。サクもヒナも彼氏できたのに、私にだけできないよ。やっぱり、私には魅力ないからかな。
I wonder if we're gonna meet Saku and Hina.
みんなね、文化祭に彼氏連れてくるんだって。私もその日までにはきっと彼氏いるって思って、
Oh
見え切って
god. That never ends up well.
できやしない。私だけ。
Before she realized it, Jessica was shedding huge tears. Jessica didn't really feel like crying, and of course, she felt like supporting Shannon's progress in love as a friend. However, as she had cheered Shannon on, her true feelings had suddenly gotten mixed in, and she couldn't help but shed tears. Shannon understood Jessica's innocent and easily injured heart. The rough style of speech Jessica usually used was all just an attempt to protect her fragile heart. As a daughter and successor to the Ushiromiya family, and a girl isolated on Rokunjima, the only person she could expose her true feelings to was Shannon. Shannon understood that, so she strongly regretted acting smug, even if it was only a little.
ごめん。 涙出ちゃうなんて、私変だぜ。ごめん。
お嬢様は素敵な方です。そんなお嬢様に素敵な男性が現れないわけがありません。
シャノン、もう時間だろ？早く行かないと、またゲンジさんやカンさんに怒られるぜ。私は全然平気だから早く行きなよ。悪いな、泣いちゃったりなんかしてさ。バカみてえだぜ、私。
Jessica faced away, acting as though she didn't really want to trouble Shannon, waving her hand as though chasing Shannon away. Shannon took that as a sign that Jessica didn't want to be bothered anymore, bowed her head, and left the room. When Shannon's footsteps disappeared into the distance, Jessica lay down on her bed, still hugging the cushion. Her expression was still a little meek, with tears in her eyes. But for the first time in a long time, she had a very, very quiet and honest conversation with her heart.
私も恋がしたい。
As Shannon happily watered the flower beds in the garden, she sensed someone's presence. She turned around, and thinking that it was one of the family had come to visit she must greet them. But what she saw was that witch.
ベアトリーチェ様。
Dang!
久しぶりよの。どうだ？その後、そなたの思い人との仲は順調か？
As Beatrice sat on the rose arch, she happily blew on her pipe. Sitting in a place like that wouldn't crush the roses, and it might have been dangerous if the arch fell over, but this is a witch after all. Showing concern for her safety was probably a waste of time.
はい。おかげさまで順調です。
当然よ。わらわの魔法はてきめんである。そなたにはまるで、二人が出会うのはあらかじめ決められた運命であったかのように感じているかもしれぬ。だがそれは間違いよ。夢、運命だなどと思うでないぞ。
それは分かってます。
The witch was calling attention to something. Two things, actually. First, that Shannon's relationship with George was a fate that had been absolutely impossible under normal circumstances. Second, that the power of the witch was great enough to overturn that fact. Shannon had just gotten wrapped up in those sweet days and had started believing the illusion that fate revolved around her. But she remembered the witch's words. Originally, her relationship with George had been impossible. No, it might be impossible in the future as well.
すまぬ。医者と同じよ。病に悩めばすがるくせに、治れば感謝も忘れる。魔女が感謝された試しはないのでな。つい卑屈になってしまった。許すがいい。
感謝の気持ちを忘れたことはありません。ベアトリーチェ様のお力で幸せな思いができていること。そして、そのお力がなければ、私とジョージ様が寄り添う運命がなかったこと、決して忘れたことはありません。
すまぬ。いじめに来たわけではないのにな。口が悪いのはわらわが性分。許されよ。それより、聞いたぞ。二人きりで旅行に行ったとな。さぞや楽しかったであろう。
とても楽しかったです。
Shannon's face suddenly lit up. The witch laughed lightly, as though amused by the speed of that transformation.
もはやそなたの思い人は、一方的に思うだけの存在ではない。 互いに思い思われる恋人同士よ。愛に満たされた二人にとって、世界はただそれだけで成立する。素晴らしき理想の世界かな。魔女も焼こうというもの。
Beatrice laughed pleasantly. That smile made her look as though she blessed the lovers' rendezvous from the bottom of her heart, without a trace of malice. After that day, Beatrice has shown herself before Shannon every once in a while. Even now, Shannon thought of her as an unsettling being. However, she was also indebted to this person for the magic that led her current relationship with George. So Shannon tried with all her might not to act surprised or scared.
そうだった。ベアトリーチェ様、旅行のお土産にお菓子を買ってきたんです。よかったらベアトリーチェ様もいかがでしょうか。
ほう、魔女に土産とな。
It seemed that even a witch who boasted of living for 1,000 years hadn't imagined that she'd receive a souvenir from a sweet lover's trip. When she saw that surprised expression, Shannon thought of this witch as a friend for the first time.
ほほう、ラードと小麦粉で作った東洋クッキーか。それを西洋風にチョコで包むとは、まさに和洋折衷、菓子のシルクロードよの。何がおかしい？
いえ、失礼いたしました。
The witch, who surely held a terrifying power, was chomping down on sweets one after another, making it sound like a squirrel stuffing walnuts into its mouth. After a while, Shannon couldn't conceal her laughter.
しそうになったぞ。そなたには今度、ネロのドルチェビータでも振る舞おうぞ。バラは永遠の愛の象徴。今のそなたには、バラのドルチェこそがふさわしかろう。
The witch was in a great mood, fully enjoying modern candy.
これ、本当にありがとうございました。もう私には十分だと思いますので、お返しします。
The thing Shannon had softly set on the table was a gold-colored butterfly brooch.
返さずともよい。それに、持ち続けていれば、二人の仲はこれからも永劫に盤石であろうが。
出会いのきっかけは、確かに魔法の力で与えてもらったかもしれません。でも、その出会いを永遠のものにする努力は、二人で協力し合って続けていくものだと思います。
愛もバラと同じか。過ぎた世日は根を腐らせる。苦労せねば育めぬ花もあろう。ならば、好きにするがよい。身につけず、宝石箱の中にしまうもよかろう。それは、そなたに送ったわらわの行為だ。それを返されては、わらわも愉快ではない。
申し訳ございません。そういう意味で言ったわけじゃ。
気を害してなどおらぬ。そのブローチは、すでにそなたのもの。わらわとの友情の証に、せいぜい大事にしてくれれば、少しは気も慰む。持ち続け、そのご利益を得るもよし、宝石箱にしまい込むもよし、望むなら、恋路に悩む別のものに譲ろうと、そなたただ、大事にしてくれればよい。さすがに粗末にされては、心が痛むでな。
According to Beatrice, she had appeared several times in the past in a response to a person's summons, to give them some tool imbued with magical power. However, when most people used that power to resolve their worries, they quickly grew unsettled by it and forgot their former gratitude and threw away the tools they had been given with disgust.
だから、わらわの行為に素直に感謝された試しは多くない。いや、初めてか。
The witch laughed heartily, but looked like a sad laugh in Shannon's eyes. She herself had been like that in the past. No, maybe she was still like that now. Beatrice was definitely a witch, with a strange and terrifying power. Most people probably wouldn't want to stick around her if they could help it. Surely even those who had relied on that strange power sometimes felt fear rather than gratitude as a result. It must have hurt the witch to have that happen over and over again. Since the time that she started thinking that way, Shannon had tried to stop being frightened of Beatrice. This was surely something that had tormented the witch for over 1,000 years. Maybe she really liked those sweets. Beatrice, who normally spoke abusively, praised the black tea that Shannon served her and looked to be in a remarkable high spirits. After doing that for a while, the witch and the servant grew animated in their discussion of the trip with George. The things Shannon actually knew about Beatrice were surprisingly few. First off, she was a ghost-like being who appeared in unexpected places at unexpected times, and it seemed that not everyone could perceive that she was there. Apparently, everyone has something called a wavelength. The ability to perceive these witches varies greatly among different people. Only Shannon and Cannon could interact with her enough to exchange words like this. There were a few people who could sense her presence, but most people couldn't even feel that much. But from what Beatrice said, Kraus and his wife in particular had zero magical talent, and no matter how much she followed them around, they would never notice her. Once earlier when Shannon messed up and Natsui got really mad at her, Beatrice started playing around hitting Natsui in the head with her pipe. I see, Natsui really doesn't notice a thing, but Shannon watching that had to burst out laughing without thinking and had gotten scolded even more.
なら、親方様だったらどうでしょうか。魔法の研究とかをなさっているそうですし、きっとベアトリーチェ様のお姿にも気づいてくださると思います。
金蔵も同じよ。あれにも気の毒なくらいに魔法の血だな。同情に値するほど才能がない。
As soon as they started talking about Kinzo, it felt like the atmosphere around Beatrice changed. She had spoken about Kraus and the rest of lack of magical talent as though she looked down on them, but when she spoke of Kinzo in a different way. Anyone connected to the Ushiromiya family would know about Kinzo's legend of the gold. According to that, Kinzo was given the gold after summoning the witch Beatrice. In other words, she must have had some kind of relationship with Kinzo.
だからあれは才能のひとかけらもないくせに至ったのだ。狂ったように独学を重ね、魔術師の域にまで達した。
それはとてもすごいことなんですね。
うん。
The witch who usually looked down on people was uncharacteristically offering her praise. While she lambasted him by saying he had no talent, she also praised his efforts.
そして親方様は魔法の力でベアトリーチェ様を呼び出した。
うん。まあ、召喚に応えたのは気まぐれだ。魔法を否定して久しいこのご時世に、才能のかけらもない者が必死にやっているのでな。少しからかってやろうと思ったのが、わらわの運の尽きよ。
Her choice of words was highlighted how much of a disaster this had been for her. Shannon hesitated over whether it would be safe to continue the discussion, but Beatrice continued on her own, ignoring Shannon.
一応、書式もルールも揃っていた。いくつかの作法が混在していたが、まあその熱意に免じ、寛大に契約に応じてやったのだ。そしてわらわは、山なす黄金を与えてやった。
そして親方様は、その黄金を使って事業を成功させ、今日の財をなすのですね。
うん。 魔法の才能はからっきしだが、詳細と莫細はあったようだな。いや、理不尽なる賭けに全て落とす勇気と狂気ゆえにか。狂気は時に魔力に通ずる。なるほど。その点から見れば、金蔵に魔法の才能が全くなかったとは言い切れんか。
Shannon felt like she was daydreaming. While everyone in the Ushiromiya family knew the story of how Kinzo idolized black magic, summoned a witch, and received the gold, in actuality, it was all a rambling that no one believed in. And now Shannon was having this story confirmed by the witch herself. She felt a little flustered by this incredible secret that only she knew.
そして、莫大な財産を得た金蔵は、人の世で手に入れることのできるすべての夢を叶えきった。そして、最後に世界の真理を求めたのだ。
世界の真理？
世界を構成する一なる元素。人の世で得られるすべてを満たした金蔵は、人が求める最後の欲望として、それを欲したのだ。
The single element. She seemed to remember the witch using that word before. When Beatrice saw Shannon was trying to remember what that was, she laughed bitterly, waving her hand and saying that there was no need to worry.
わらわも金蔵を少し見くびっていた。まさかあれほどの力を見せるとは思わなかったのでな。おかげでこのざまだ。茶飲み友達もなく、この島にもう何十年も縫い留められている。誰に話しかけようとも声は届かず、どこへ行くこともできない。
That would be horrible.
なんとも退屈な数十年だったことよ。
As she laughed in self-derision, she tapped her teacup with her finger. It made the light sound of pottery. Shannon didn't know whether the word self-derision was really an accurate expression to describe the look on the witch's face. Shannon didn't understand everything, but she could more or less figure out the situation, and it was probably a topic that she couldn't press on the witch on easily, not unless the witch started talking about it herself. To sum up everything she had said until now, Beatrice, who had been summoned by Kinzo's magic, could not leave the island for some reason, and she had lost her power and her form, living her days in boredom. Okay. During that time, her words had reached Shannon, who had never forgot to show sincere respect for the witch. And Shannon had helped the witch regain her power, if only for a little bit. As a result, it was now possible for the witch to drink tea with Shannon like this.
ベアトリーチ様が私に割るように言ったあの鏡は、一体何なのですか？
ああ、その話か。この辺りの島で、大昔いろいろとあったらしくてな。そのせいで良くないものがたまり、悪い歪みを引き寄せていたのだ。それを、旅の東洋魔術師か何かが、鎮魂の社を建立して封じ込めたらしい。それ自体は、わらわとはどうでもいいことなのだが、困ったことに、魔力の基礎が違っててな。わらわの魔力にも強い干渉を及ぼしておって、非常に迷惑していたのだ。
そうだったんですか。私はてっきり、ベアトリーチ様を封じていたものだとばかり。
わらわを対象にしたものではない。だが、神格のある鏡だったからな。結果として、わらわの力を封じ込めていたわけだ。料理に例えるならこうか。
The way these people give examples are
わらわ
always so
の注文
strange.
した西洋料理が、厨房でまさに料理されているとする。ところがいざ配膳しようとしたら、客席は日本風で、 懐石料理が並べられている場だった。だから厨房は場違いな皿を出せず、わらわのところへはいつまで経っても西洋料理が届かない。といった感じよの。
I get it.
だからそなたに日本風の客席を打ち壊し、場を一度白紙に戻させたのだ。そのおかげでようやくわらわの注文した料理が届き、力が戻ったというところか。
Who else's power came back
も
though?
っとも、ようやく食前酒が届いたというところよ。メインディッシュにはまだまだ遠い。
Oh, appetizer.
今のわらわなど、靴屋の妖精にも劣る希薄な存在でな。
Shoe fairy?
何がおかしい？
魔女様の例えがあまりに面白かったもので、まさか魔法の話がお料理の話に例えられるとは思いませんでした。
我ながらうまい表現だったつもりだが、よもや笑われるとは思わなかったぞ。少し心外だ。
A slightly sulky expression rose to the witch's face. It wasn't a strange expression at all to be appearing on a face of some friends as they enjoyed their tea.
こう見えても、昔は残酷極まりないことで知られたわらわだったが、丸くなったものよ。人間とこうして、たわいない話で茶を交わせるようになるのだから。
She was probably talking to herself. As Beatrice gazed at the seabirds tracing the horizon, she put her tea to her lips
雲
again.
が出てきたな。海も精彩をかけば、灰色の水たまりに過ぎぬ。
そうでしょうか。曇っても、海は美しくて、真っ青だと思います。
Maybe the witch noticed a deep meaning behind Shannon's words. She laughed lightly and set down her empty teacup.
もはや、そなたの両目に埋められているのは、黒い石ころではないらしい。どうだ？家具から人間に生まれ変わった気持ちは、理解できておるか？
はい。世界がこんなにも優しかったなんて知りませんでした。
Since the start of her relationship with George, Shannon's face had grown brighter more often. Her smile had made everything go smoothly and had even changed her fortune. Shannon made less mistakes in her work than she had before, and the family members' opinion of her slowly started to change. Just the other day, she had been surprised when Krause, who rarely exchanged words with her, had started talking to her.
最近いい笑顔をすることが多くなったじゃないか。何か良いことでもあったのかね？
いえ。でも、楽しい毎日です。はい。
良いことじゃないか。同じコーヒーなら笑顔で継がれた方がうまいに決まっている。その笑顔でもう一杯頼めんかね。
はい。
That had become a chance for Shannon to gain confidence in herself. Of course, it didn't go beyond her own heart, and it wasn't a big change that anyone else would notice, but she had begun to change bit by bit. Shannon understood it clearly. Knowing love was the same as gaining its soul, the same as being reborn from furniture into a human. There was absolutely nothing mistaken in Beatrice's words. By knowing love, Shannon had learned what it was to be human.
珍しい茶化をちそうになったな。有意義な時間であった。そろそろ仕事に戻らねばならぬ時間であろう。茶会はこれまでにしよう。そなたとわらわが茶を飲むことを好かん者もおるようでな。
Oh, Canon probably hates it. The witch gripped her teaspoon and flipped it with her fingers, sending it up into the air. After that, it was launched by the fingers of some invisible person and flew straight into a nearby bush. The bush shook violently and Cannon came out. It seemed he had been there for some time watching their tea party. The spoon was gripped in his hand. If he hadn't caught it in an instant, it might have hit him hard in the forehead, caused him to start oozing blood.
安心せよ。茶会はこれで終わるぞ、カノン。
いつからそこにいたの？声をかけてくれれば、カノン君の紅茶も入れたのに。
女同士の語らいを邪魔したくなかったのであろう
Cannon kept silent, but there seemed to be a slightly hostile look in his eyes. On the outside, he acted with respect, but unlike Shannon, Cannon did not trust the witch. When Beatrice hit the table with her pipe, the tea set turned into golden butterflies which flew upwards all at once. Then they scattered in every direction, and the cleanup was already done.
楽しかったぞ、シャノン。また縁があれば会おうぞ。まだまだ魔力が足りぬでな。姿を現すのも疲れる。
そんなに疲れるなら、二度と現れるな。
Why would you? Cannon had said it in a small voice, but the witch seemed to have heard it perfectly. She giggled but did not reply.
シャノン、次の茶会では、ジョージとの話をまた聞かせておくれ。人の恋路より甘い茶花は他にない。それでは、さらばだ。
Beatrice's body also became gold butterflies, which scattered in all directions and disappeared. It was a fantastical and beautiful scene, like a blizzard of gold leaf. For a while, Shannon quietly watched the witch's exit. Cannon approached her from behind and spoke with an expression that was drastically different from hers.
姉さん、あいつと付き合っちゃダメだって言ったじゃないか。
ベアトリーチェ様はそんなに悪い人じゃない。確かにちょっと怪しいところはあるけれど。
僕たちにしか姿が見えない時点で十分にうさんくさいよ。あいつは人間じゃない。何を企んでるかわかるものか。
カノン君、それは少し失礼だと思うな。
There was a touch of sternness in Shannon's voice, which was unusual for her. To Cannon, who knew her well, she must have sounded extremely stern. Cannon, looking excessively surprised considering Shannon's tone, fell silent.
確かにベアトリーチェ様は人間とは違う。恐ろしい力を持っているし、恐れ敬わなければならない存在だと思う。でも、人間とは違うからといって、それだけを理由に忌み嫌うのは、とても失礼なことだと思うの。
姉さんの言いたいことはわかるよ。姉さんは、あいつにあのブローチをもらってから変わった。まるで魔女の虜だよ。ジョージ様との仲を取り持ってもらって、頭が上がらないんだ。
I mean, she is somewhat indebted to her, but I don't think
そんなことを言わないで。
her, like, being happy, I wouldn't say that's, like, a bad thing, dude.
あいつは人間じゃない。何を考えてるかわからない。だから気を許しちゃダメなんだ。
I'm gonna laugh if he, like, falls in love with a different witch or
そして
something.
人間じゃないのは僕らも同じだよ。姉さん。
He doesn't. Cannon's words grew more serious. Those words probably gouged Shannon's heart. She bit her lower lip and hung her head.
僕らは核だ。たとえ名前をもらい、人として接してもらったとしても、僕たちの生まれが変わるわけじゃない。
You were no longer furniture. Those words Beatrice had given her, which had made her the happiness, floated around Shannon's mind.
家具じゃないよ。
Yeah, you tell him, Shannon.
うん。家具だよ。僕たちは人間未満の存在だよ。姉さんはそこを忘れたふりをして、人間のふりをしているだけ。
Cannon's the guy that if you're at a party, he just starts talking about depressing shit in the middle of the party, and everyone's like, "Who invited this
自分で
guy?"
も分かっているはずだよ。
私、家具じゃないもん。
I do like Cannon though, but he is a Debbie Downer.
いや、人間じゃない。僕らには愛する資格も、愛される資格も初めからない。
Cannon's criticism seemed to have shifted away from Shannon's meetings with the witch. Shannon picked up on that quickly.
お嬢様に聞いたよ。正直、呆れたね。ジョージ様と一緒に旅行に出られるなんて。
Bro.
家具の身の程を忘れてるよ。姉さんはあの魔女にそそのかされて、自分が人間になれたと勘違いしてるだけなんだよ。
Merman.
聞いてカノン君。確かに私たちは家具だよ。人間に劣った未満の存在。でも、その満たない分をもし得られたなら、それは人間になれたということじゃないのかな。
そんなものはありはしないよ。
あるの。それを得たなら、私たちは家具なんかじゃない。人間になれるよ。
バカバカしい。なれるものか。
Cannon spat those words out, but did so weakly and turned away. He was probably giving up. After all, the suffering he'd undergone during those days he'd lived as furniture, his heart was firmly sealed.
なれるよ、カノン君も。普通の人間に。
よしてよ。魔女の受け売りは。
I would say it would be harder in general for a male servant to get like a maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like it was more common that like nobility or like very wealthy men would pick a girl that's a servant than vice versa, but I could be wrong.
ベアトリーチェ様に教えてもらったの。私たちは世界の一なる元素を得ることで人間になることができる。それを満たさないなら、それは人間じゃない。だから人は一なる元素を得るために生涯を尽くし貫いていく。
姉さんが何を言っているのかわからないね。よまよい事なら聞きたくないよ。
ならカノン君にもわかるように教えてあげるね。ほら、姉さんの指の先を見て。
Shannon quietly pointed out to the sea toward the horizon. Cannon didn't understand what she meant and couldn't do anything except look between the horizon and Shannon's expression, which seemed to be posing a riddle.
カノン君は海が何色に見える？
It was an extremely simple question. For a while, Cannon tried to guess at the meaning behind it, but he couldn't think of anything, so he answered obediently.
パッとしない。ネズミ色だよ。それが何？
Ah, I see. Objectively speaking, the sea laid out beneath the cloudy sky would probably be described best by Cannon's words. But as Shannon closed her eyes and smiled, she shook her head slightly.
私には真っ青に見える。
そういう意味？緑色の信号を青っていうようなものでしょ。
違うの。海は真っ青。私には分かってカノン君には分からないなら、これがつまりそういうことなの。
Cannon bit his lower lip and was silent for a while.
わからないよ。
カノン君、手を出して。
As Cannon was taken aback, unable to understand what she was saying, She took his arm and opened the palm of his hand. Shannon softly set something there. Oh, it was the magic brooch which she had received from Beatrice. A magic charm shaped like a golden butterfly that could bring love to
これ
fruition.
はあいつの。
ううんこれは私の。だから私だと思って粗末にしないで。
After being spoken to like that, he couldn't just throw it away. Cannon didn't know what he should do, so he stood there confused for a while, the brooch still in the palm of his hand. Shannon put the palm of her hand on top of Cannon's, and the brooch was warmed by the both of their
これ
hands.
は本当の魔法の力を持ったお守り。きっとカノン君に大切な気持ちを教えてくれると思うの。
あいつの魔法で教えられることなんて何もない。
Don't knock it till
あ
you
るの。
try it.
だから身につけて。
Where is a Prince
恥ずかしけ
Albert?
れば懐に忍ばせておくだけでもいいそうなの。
バカバカしい。あいつの魔法なんかに惑わされてたまるか。
Even as he said it, Cannon couldn't be cold-hearted towards something Shannon was urging him to take. In the end, Cannon took it and agreed reluctantly, saying he proved that he wasn't surrendered to the witch's power. Shannon smiled and nodded back.
きっとカノン君は大切なことを学べるよ。きっと人間になれるから。そうすればきっとカノン君にもこの海が美しい青に見えるに違いない。
ネズミ色は何度見たってネズミ色さ。
I disagree.
違うよカノン君。そう見えるのは愛がないから。
Because of the howling wind, he hadn't been able to catch the main point. I thought it was bleeped out, and she meant to say "you have no dick" for a second, and I was like, "What?" And then I'm like, "Oh, probably love." That makes more sense. So Shannon said it once more, the single element of the word. She spoke once more of a world where it existed, where the sea was a deep blue.
きっとカノン君にも真っ青な海が見えるよ。だって
Without love, it cannot be seen. Preach.
そこにいるのは誰か。
カノンです、親方様。
Oh. It was rare for Kinzo to leave his study. However, the fact that he had didn't mean his noble research had been suspended. He may have left the study because of a change of mood, but that didn't mean the thoughts filling his head were any different from those he had while inside the study. Kana knew that no matter what the time, speaking to Kinzo when he didn't want to be spoken to would always disturb his research.
天気が重いな。崩れるのか。
はい。天気予報ではいつ雨があってもおかしくないと。傘をお持ちいたしましょうか。
それには及ばん。しばらく私を放っておくがいい。
I'm gonna go lay in these
息子
flowers.
たちに聞かれても所在は知らぬと言っておけ。私は自らの思考を巡る旅で忙しい。
かしこまりました。それでは失礼いたします。
Before Cannon finished bowing, Kinzo had already returned to his own world, having forgotten Cannon's presence completely. And once again he began rambling to himself. Amidst those words, the name of that witch popped up many times.
おお、ベアトリーチェ。お前の微笑みに手が届かぬ。
But it can reach my...
どうすれば蘇るのか。どうすれば再び微笑んでくれるのか。何が足りぬ。研究か、資料か、触媒か。それとも魔力か、運気か、神託か。ああ、ベアトリーチェ、どうすればお前の面影をもう一度見ることができるのだ。
You could literally, if someone put this exact voice acting into a hentai, it would fit perfectly still. Oh. As Kanda listened to his master's weeping voice with his back turned, he turned around just once. When he did, right behind his isolated old master was the shadow of a person who shouldn't have been there. It was the witch! At once, thinking that the witch must be plotting to do something to Kinzo's... Cannon dashed back to Kinzo and tried to shield him with his body. But when he saw the expression on the witch's face, that emotion of his vanished. After all, Beatrice's expression was sorrowful, or maybe pitying.
愚かな金蔵。わらわはここにいるというのに。
That's so sad. Right behind Kinzo, as he repeated the witch's name over and over, desiring to be reunited with her more than anything else, was the witch herself. And yet Kinzo didn't notice anything. When Beatrice tried to rest her hand on his shoulder, he didn't notice.
なぜだ？なぜベアトリーチェの微笑みに手が届かぬのか？月齢か？水星の周期か？惑星の配列か？何が足りぬのだ？何が？
無駄よ、金蔵。愛がなければ見えない。
I mean, he loves her, though. Cannon took the brooch he had received from Shannon out of his pocket. By learning something new, he would become able to glimpse something that he couldn't see now.
愛がなければ見えない。
He looked at Kinzo's back once more. The witch could no longer be seen there. I can't remember, was a brooch found on someone's body? Shit always goes down at the cultural fairs and animes. The biggest fall event for the Ushiromi family was the family conference in October. But to Jessica, there was another major event that came before that, the school cultural festival. Jessica liked school. To her, it was a place where she could let out the stress built up from the rigid lifestyle she was forced to lead at home. For today's cultural festival, she had formed a group with her friends and announced that they performed some light music on a temporary stage. She had prepared and practiced for this over and over until today, always anxiously awaiting this day's arrival. But there was one thing that had worried her. She looked at the clock. There was still a little time, but she felt uneasy. Would that person really come? After taking a single deep breath, her heart jumped when all her friends suddenly started speaking in shrill voices.
嘘！ひなの彼氏超イケてんじゃん！マジすごくない？マジすごくない？リンの彼氏すっごい頭良さそう。あれでド S メガネなの？マジ本当？
ダメダメ。うちの旦那ギャル男だし。
Girls gossiping is. It may not be like this for all girls, but at least at Jessica's school, the cultural festival was basically a boyfriend exhibition. Jessica didn't have a boyfriend. She had many friends of the opposite sex, but no special only one. But Jessica was a little famous around school, and everyone thought it'd be natural for her to have a fitting partner. Furthermore, her pride had let her pretend that this was true. She'd somehow managed to keep them fooled until this year. But for various reasons, she hadn't been able to escape this year's cultural festival.
ジェシー、彼氏来た？
いや、まだ来てねえみてえだぜ。仕事忙しいのかな？
Is it canon?
ジェシーの彼氏、どんな人なの？ せめてヒントだけでも出してよ。
何系？何系？すごいよね。社会人なんでしょ？スーツとかで来る？もちろんメガネかけてるよね。
ねえ、でも本当はいないんだよね。今素直に白状したら私の仲間に入れてあげるって。一緒にこの文化祭を涙で濡らそうよ。いや、いる、本当にいるって。
Jessica's bitter smile was covered with cold sweat. It was starting to seem doubtful whether she really had deceived her sharp-witted friends.
はい。なら、彼氏さんの偽物を立てて連れて行くというのはどうでしょうか。
偽物？誰を？そんなのの心当たりねえぜ。
Shannon's ridiculous plan had surprised Jessica into hysterics. Even so, it was probably more realistic than the crazy methods running through her head about getting a boyfriend in the big rush before the school cultural festival.
例えばですが、カノン君なんてどうでしょう。
カノン君？ダメ！というか、きっとカノン君文化祭の日は仕事に決まってるぜ。迷惑かけちゃ悪いしさ。
もちろん予定表も確認済みです。カノン君はその日、お休みになっています。
Ooh.
こんな時ばっかり容量がいいのな。
Shannon and Jessica are really good wingmen.
じゃなくて、
Wingwomen.
休みならもっと悪いぜ。せっかくの休みを私の見栄のために引っ張り出せないよ。
カノン君は引っ張り出されないといっつも閉じこもってばかりいますので、無理に引っ張り回すくらいでちょうどいいかと思いますよ。
そうなの？いや、でもカノン君に悪い。
なら晩作つきますね。おとなしく彼氏はいませんと白状なされてはいかがでしょうか。それは肩身の狭い思いをなされるでしょうが、卒業までの短くも長い間を耐え忍ばれるだけでございますし、
So savage.
愛し合う恋人同士にとって独り者のひがみ顔が何にも勝る甘い蜜なのです。
シャノン、私のために本気で悩んでないでしょ。おちょくってるでしょ。
Jessica wrestled about with Shannon, her eyes teary, but Shannon was unfazed, laughing with her usual smile.
はい。私とジョージ様のことを茶化してばかりのお嬢様への仕返しです。
Listening to Shannon's comeback, the likes of which didn't happen even once a year, Shannon hugged her cushion and rolled around her bed, pretending to faint in agony. She couldn't stand Shannon's smile, which looked so triumphant. But right now, she was the only person Jessica could talk with. She could choke her to death with a cushion later.
いいじゃないですか、お嬢様。文化祭ではありますが、カノン君と一緒に遊びに行くチャンスですよ。
いや、それはそうだけど。いや。
Jessica buried her head in her favorite pillow to hide the fact that her face had grown bright red. She grumpily chewed the fingernail on her thumb. It really was a reaction to be appreciated. Shannon and Jessica were about the same age, of the same sex and friends. They were both right in the middle of puberty. They could never talk enough about love. That's why they could talk freely about these topics to each other. So Jessica had heard a lot about how Shannon and George's love was progressing. And Shannon had heard a lot about what type Jessica liked, what kinds of men she might be interested in. Judging by Jessica's reaction, it'd probably be rude for us to go into precisely what these things were. However, this story won't get anywhere if we just have Jessica rolling around forever. So let's dive in. Jessica had been thinking about Canada ever since he'd shown up. It was extremely rare for young men to visit Rokuchima, so maybe it was natural for Jessica, a girl in puberty, to develop interest in canon. But if anyone said that, it would destroy the romantic ideals of a maiden's pure heart and love at first sight. Shannon had been with Canon a long time at the orphanage, so she had known him since before they started working. So Jessica had asked persistently about what his hobbies were, what his favorite food was, what type of girls he liked. Even so, even to Shannon, it was clear Jessica was infatuated with Canon.
もう、カノン君をデートに連れ出せるいい機会じゃありませんか。
でも、カノン君にだって好きな人とかいるかもしれないし、私なんかの見えっ張りに付き合わせたら気を悪くするぜ。
お嬢様のような素直じゃない方を、何でしたっけ？ジョージ様に習いました。そうそう、あと十数年かすると流行るんだそうですよ。
へえ、さすがジョージ兄さんだな。未来のトレンドがわかるのかよ。すげえぜ。じゃなくてってことは、私ってタイプは時代がずれてるってことじゃねえかよ。
It took several days of wasted efforts, but in the end, Jessica agreed to the plan of having Canon pretend to be her boyfriend.
Hi, お嬢様。お呼びでしょうか。
Jessica regretted calling out in such a bad time. Canon always looked sullen, but he had some bad days and some better days. Unfortunately, this reaction was the former.
いや、そのさ、
All that confidence and effort she'd built up practicing in front of a mirror all night was wiped out into 5 seconds. Jessica turned bright red and hung her head. When he saw that, Canon sighed. Jessica thought that he was exasperated with her, and her face went pale.
シャノンから聞いています。お嬢様の学校の文化祭へお供するようにというお話ですか。
シャノンナイスじゃなくて、そうなんだけど、
She's so
当
awkward.
日の予定はどうかな。
I was going to shine my shoes for 12 hours, but I guess I could fit you into my busy schedule.
シャノンから当日は特にお嬢様にお仕えするよう厳命されております。
Shannon with the assist.
僕は高校には行ったことがないのでわかりませんが、何でも男性の付き人がいないと大変肩身が狭い場だとか、後宮本家令嬢が庶民に劣ることがあってはならないと特に厳命されておりますので。
If you put it that way, Canon will absolutely say yes.
シャノン後でぶっ殺す。
Jessica kept yelling with a strange voice and broken smile, like a tea kettle filled with boiling water. As Canon watched us, he sighed again. Canon wasn't an idiot either. He fully understood what Jessica intended by inviting him. But to be honest, playing along with Jessica's love game seemed like it'd be nothing more than an annoyance to him. However, Shannon had asked him over and over again. He was deeply indebted to her, so he couldn't refuse. And that brooch was in his pocket. Could this strange turn of events have been brought about by the magic power residing in this brooch? Ridiculous. But he remembered what Shannon had said to him that day. Could Shannon see something he couldn't? I don't understand Shannon's feelings. We are furniture. As if we could ever become anything more. It was truly an odd exchange between Jessica, who was still rambling on in a strange voice, and Canon, who sighed deeply.
Jesse, 人が来てるよ。
I hope he's not wearing his freaking
聞
servant
こえて
outfit.
ないの？
He's kind of it.
ごめん。誰？
As my friends all gathered together, they were looking this way with hard to describe expressions, whispering to each other in small voices that weren't small anymore. My attempt to play dumb felt pretty transparent, even to me. Did I really just say, sorry, who is it? Like I don't know who just showed up? Ah, it's useless. It's useless. My mind's going blank.
うそ、あれジェシの彼氏。かわいい。本当に彼氏いたんだ。マジ嘘本当。ジェシカの裏切り者。
Cannon's looking fresh, man.
素敵じゃん。年下？年下なんて聞いてないよ。どこジェシの彼氏ってどこショタって本当？いや遅かったじゃねえかよ。
昇降口がわからなかったもので遅くなって申し訳ございません。いや
その格好も似合ってるぜ。
シャノンが普段着では良くないと言って先日一緒に買い物を。似合いませんでしたでしょうか？
そんなことないよ。シャノン後で2階級特進。
なんだかここは女の人ばかりで居心地が悪いです。
だよな。さここじゃなくてステージの方に行こうぜ。もうすぐ私たちの出番だからさ。さ。
Jessica seemed just as uncomfortable. It looked like being bathed in everyone's interested gazes was hard on her. When he saw Jessica's appearance, Cannon thought that he might have made things difficult for her by coming.
なんだか迷惑をおかけしているような気がします。お邪魔だったでしょうか？
そんなことないって。
僕がお邪魔でしたらいつでも言ってくだされば。僕はどうしていればいいでしょうか、お嬢様。
お嬢って呼ばせてるの？羊元気だこれ。ラメ今日はお嬢様はラメ。
そうですか。わかりました、ジェシカ様。
しつけ済みの様付けだ。ごめんカノン君。3秒でいいから目。キスするよ。
ではつまります。
By the time Cannon opened his eyes, a horrible tragedy occurred in the room. Everyone had been driven into the walls, their arms and legs outstretched. Jessica had slipped her brass knuckles back into her pocket before Cannon's eyes opened.
とにかくステージの方に行こう。私たちの出番はもうすぐだからしばらく席で待っててよ。私たちは準備あるからさ。この先突き当たりまで行けば仮設舞台があるからわかるぜ。そこで待ってて。
She pushed Cannon's back and he seemed to be having trouble moving himself and chased him out. Even though Cannon was confused by Jessica's attitude and her panicky state, which he'd never seen before, he followed her instructions and headed into the direction she had indicated. After seeing him off with an awkward smile, Jessica slammed the door shut and yelled loudly.
見たね。見たでしょ。満足した？ざまあねえぜ。賭けに負けた。絶対ジェシに彼氏なんかいないと思ってたのに。彼氏じゃないんでしょ。使用人へのパワハラでしょ。ジェシの彼氏 ほらほら、準備準備。
When Jessica took the brass knuckles out of her pocket again, everyone energetically returned to their task. Kanan went down the corridor Jessica had shown him and ran into a temporary stage where the vending machine should have been. It was probably being rented by the hour by some group or club. The ones singing were student groups, but the crowd was incredibly excited. Disliking that clatter, he leaned against the wall in the darkness by himself. So this is what they call high school. It sure is noisy. That's what Kanan thought. He remembered Jessica just now, acting in a way he'd never seen before. Honestly, she was such in high spirits that alcohol might have been involved. To him, remaining composed and intellectual at all times was the highest virtue. In that sense, it was very hard for Kanan to get used to the atmosphere of a school cultural festival. He had the responsibility to report everything he saw and heard to the master. So he had to report about how Jessica had acted without restraint earlier. At the very least, it was not fitting for the daughter of the Ushiromiya family head. The master, Kraus-sama, and especially Natsui would probably be angry. If I aim to report it in a way that protects Milady, should I blame it on inappropriate school friends?
なんであれバカみたいだ
Kanan thought back on how Jessica had acted earlier inside again. He could understand Natsui's headache a little now. Come to think of it, Natsui-sama, as the president of the PTA, was supposed to go to an informal gathering after attending the ceremony in the gymnasium. She said she would be able to see Milady's performance, didn't she? That's probably for the best.
人混みは気持ち悪いななんだってんだ一体
Several female students kept glancing at me. It seemed they're all whispering the same things Milady's school friends said, and it's truly unpleasant. Come to think of it, didn't Shannon warn me? If you walk alone at something like a school festival, you better watch out, because lots of strange people will come and talk to you.
お一人ですか?
Just as expected, a group of girls I'd never met started talking to me. Their stares started to make my back tingle. She didn't tell me some magic words that could chase them off at times like this.
すみません連れがいますので
そうですか。ごめんなさい。
Ah, it worked. Instant reaction. Well, that got rid of them, but it hasn't really changed the number of people staring at me.
違うよ。あの子だよ、ジェシーの彼氏。嘘？あの子が？信じらんないよね。絶対に嫌だと思ってたよ。可愛いじゃん。年下？いいなぁ。
There's no way I'll ever come to a place like this again. Kanan sighed for about the zillionth time that day. When he did, the lighting changed and the standing audience started cheering. He looked around and realized there was suddenly a large group of people there, and unlike earlier, they were mostly guys. With this huge crowd, he couldn't even see the stage. Fortunately, there was a fallen beer case nearby, so he tried using that as a footstool. When he did, he realized there was now a new group on the stage. Their leader is my lady. She changed into stage clothes and she is even holding a guitar. I didn't know she could play. Then again, maybe she can play. I've seen her practicing air guitar before. Natsui-sama wouldn't approve of any hobbies outside of study. Maybe she's always practicing in secret. Come to think of it, she's been returning really late from school recently, hasn't she? Maybe she's been practicing at school, far away from Natsui-sama's prying eyes. It is really for the best that Natsui-sama didn't come. If Milady were to get scolded by Natsui-sama after putting so many hours of practice in, she'd probably be dejected. I could hear Jessica-sama's forceful voice through the speakers. Jessie-sama? Maybe that's her nickname at school. The students in the audience kept calling out that name. I'm a little offended by that crude name. It's inappropriate for Milady. Jessica-sama was in high spirits as they kept shouting Jessie-sama. Everyone here was probably a fan. Her mic performance picked up on that, and electrified them even more. It was almost like a music program on TV. At first he thought it was all silly, but his feelings changed into appreciation. It was incredible in its own way. Ken never listened to music of his own free will, but he'd often heard the kind of music the Ushiromiya family liked. Since it was almost all classical, Kanon had naturally taken a liking to that kind of music. So to Kanon, the song Jessica sang was, how should you say it? Extremely colorful. In any case, if Natsui-sama heard it, she'd probably faint. But everyone looked like they were having a really good time. Some die-hard fans who even brought pen lights sang along and danced crazily with the same movements, almost as though it had been planned ahead. On stage, Jessica-sama also sang enthusiastically, dripping with sweat. He couldn't find a single element that was appropriate for the daughter of the Ushiromiya family, but it looked like so much fun. Again, today, behind me, the sound of footsteps. Oyashiro-sama is stalking me. Curses, disappearances, sacrifices, torture. Onekushui... Shushi... Why did I mispronounce that right now? Does that make a good snack? Don't say Marisa. Oh my gosh, I just got tongue-tied for a second. That's cool they had Oyashiro in that. I must not go along with it, but at any rate, Milady was full of life, and it looks like she's having a great time. As I watched Milady enjoying herself, I thought, could this be Ushiromiya Jessica's true nature? Don't I know better than anyone that during her life on Rokujima, she had no choice but to kill her sense of self? So the time she spends, not as Milady, successor to the Ushiromiya family, but as a single girl called Jessica, living her life to the fullest, must be very important to her. I've worked close to Milady, seeing her in all seasons, and thought I knew everything about her. But that was all limited to one side of her, the Milady of Rokujima. We are furniture. We serve on Rokujima, and end our lives on Rokujima. So I've come to think Rokujima itself as our whole world, as though like a Ptolemaic theory, the ocean spilled off the end of the world into an abyss. But when I look at Milady like this, I can see how horribly narrow that outlook is. I still can't go along with the excitement of the crowd, but I feel like I can see something that cannot be seen on Rokujima. I'm not sure if this is the unseeable thing Shannon was talking about, but the ocean still doesn't look blue to me.
Okay,
I'm gonna save it here today. Yeah, this was like a fun episode. We had like tea party with Shannon and Beatrice. Then Kanon is at the cultural festival. Yeah, it was like a really fun episode overall. So yeah, excited to see where this goes. And yeah, be on the lookout for some more uploads the next few days and everything.